with today's silver prices, it's still looking very good with respect to putting those old leach pads back into production first. The beauty with our project is when Kinross decided to shut down in 1997, they did not complete reclamation.
Finding a new silver deposit is difficult. Building a new silver mine is even harder. And while investors continue searching for the next major silver opportunity, some companies are taking a very different approach by looking at assets that have already proven they can produce. Welcome to the Market Frontlines. I'm your host, Lyndsay Malchuk. One Resources is working to unlock value from a portfolio of silver projects led by its Candelaria project in Nevada, a property with a production history and ambitions for much more. Joining me today is Greg Crowe, President and CEO of One Resources. Greg is well known in the mining sector for his hands-on approach to project development and his ability to see potential where others may not quite yet. And as One continues to advance its assets and evaluate pathways towards growth, Greg remains focused on one thing: building value through execution. Greg, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. It's always a pleasure.
Now, Greg, right out of the gate here, One has assembled a portfolio that does include both exploration opportunities and past producing silver mine. So when you look across the company's assets today, where do you believe the market is assigning the least amount of value relative to the opportunity that you see?
Well, the least amount of value, we have 3 projects, 2 in Nevada, 1 in Arizona. The Candelaria, of course, is the most important and the most advanced, but our least advanced project is called the Cherokee project in eastern Nevada. It has a lot of upside exploration potential, but it's early stage, and we are focusing on getting our Candelaria project towards development and production, but we also have an excellent advanced exploration program in Arizona called Phoenix Silver. So Cherokee is the ignored, shall we say, child in the portfolio.
Okay, so then you touched on it. That naturally brings us to that Candelaria project, which has become a cornerstone of the One story. So Candelaria has something many silver projects never get to benefit of having. It has a production history, and in your view, Greg, what is the most critical milestone that ultimately determines whether a former producer can successfully become a future producer once again?
Well, that's a bit of a long answer, but I'm going to make it as short as I possibly can. Candelaria was a past producer. It produced up until 1997 with the company Kinross Gold, which is a large company. They produced, I said, up until 97. And all told, they and their predecessors, dating back to 1864, produced over 68 million ounces of silver. Now, when we acquired the project, Kinross had sold it off to Silver Standard. We did a deal with Silver Standard. They had done a preliminary resource, which was outdated and was deemed to be historic. But we liked that resource, and we saw lots of upside geological potential. So we've been working on the project now for several years. We've done an abundant amount of drilling. We did about 30,000 meters of drilling. We outlined new resources that constituted an additional 70 plus million ounces of silver equivalent just on the fresh mineralization, with another 45 million ounces in the old Heap Leach pads. Now, that's important because that's already mined material. And with today's silver prices, well, they're a little off today, but still, with today's silver prices, it's still looking very good with respect to putting those old leach pads back into production first, and then moving up the hill and re-mining a lot of the new mineralization that we outlined with our drilling. And there's a lot more to come, because we've just recently announced another 25,000 meter drill program to even further expand those resources potentially.
Wow, what a story. So one of the biggest challenges for any resource company then, Greg, is closing that gap between potential and certainty. And so you have actually seen both sides of that with, at least one of your projects here. Now, the market often rewards discovery, but long-term value is typically created through the de-risking an asset. So where do you believe Silver One sits today on that spectrum between exploration upside and development certainty?
Yeah, sure. We're moving fast towards the development stage at Candelaria. We're doing metallurgical work. We are doing slope stability work for pushing back the two historic open pits into one big super pit. We're doing drilling to outline more resources that will actually extend mine life. And we are marching towards a pre-feasibility study. Hopefully, we'll have that out before the end of the year. That's what we're aiming for. Now, the important thing about Candelaria, a lot of people have these dreams and hopes of bringing a project into production, but there's something called permitting. And a lot of the permitting issues can take anywhere between 10, 20, 30 years, depending upon the jurisdiction and the stage of development. The beauty with our project is when Kinross decided to shut down in 1997, they did not complete reclamation. As such, the mine was never closed. As such, the permits are still active. Now, we've had meetings with both the BLM, the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection. They've told us in 4 meetings, get us a plan of operation and we'll update your permits in a matter of months, because they want to see this project go ahead and then eventually be totally reclaimed.
100%.
That's their goal. And they see us as a potential group to do that. So what is our goal? We're going to finish the PFS. We have enough information on the heap leach pads to submit a plan of operation, probably in 2027, and then we'll march forward with respect to getting those permits renewed.
Wow. Okay, so I want to stay on this topic just a little bit more about the risk for a moment, because something every investor seems to evaluate differently is the risk management side. When you look at Silver One today, what do you believe investors are getting wrong about the company's risk profile?
Well, first of all, we have to bring out the pre-feasibility study.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know whether your listeners or you know of something called the Lassonde curve, where there is a big run-up in a price of a junior resource stock during the
100%.
initial discovery phase. Well, that kind of tails off when you're doing pre-development and getting into development. And then it ramps up again and you build value as you're marching towards production. We're in that pre-development stage. So investors are saying, well, prove it to us. And we hope to prove it to them with the pre-feasibility study towards the end of the year. And then we will keep our investors informed as to how permitting is working, and assuming the silver prices stay healthy, we'll be marching towards hopefully a production decision.
Well, one of the things that you have on your side too is that it already proved that it is producing, that it does produce, and so you do have that in your corner. Greg, I'm going to keep leaning into this risk just a little bit further. Where do you still see the greatest opportunity to further reduce risk at the company's advances?
Well, we're working on metallurgy right now, and we're looking at some new technologies for the heap leach pads. Now, we need to prove that. We're doing that testing right now. That will all be hopefully proven within the pre-feasibility study and a pilot test using these new solutions, which are being developed jointly by 2 companies called Extract and Bechtel. Bechtel is one of the largest engineering groups in the world, and they thoroughly back this process. They're working with several other companies. And we've had good results on the tests that we've got, but that alone is not the cornerstone. The other major important factor are silver prices, of course. When we initially looked at perhaps bringing the heap leach pads back into production in 2018, silver prices were $12 and $14. It's a little different story today.
Just a little different story for sure. Greg, why don't you tell us about the community around you? Because I know Nevada is quite heavily involved with a lot of the mining, but there are little communities around you. Tell us about that.
Not too many communities around us. We're relatively, shall we say, population free. There's a very small community called Mina. I don't know, there's just maybe 100 residents, maybe.
Wow.
And they are all a sort of, in the resource or that line of work. We get our water supplies from there right now. We do have water on the property, but we need to establish the old water line for mining. So we're bringing in water for our drilling right now from Mina. And on top of that, we've got about 40 plus minutes away on a paved highway that joins Reno to Las Vegas is Tonopah, and in the other direction is Hawthorne.
Okay.
They're large communities that are very, very well, shall we say, stocked with mining type people.
Okay, great. Well, I want to actually finish this with the broader investment case here. As investors become increasingly selective with where they deploy their capital, what will ultimately separate Silver One from the dozens of other silver stories competing for attention over the next few years?
Sure. There's a lot of small junior resource silver companies, and some of them are very, very good, but they're earlier stage than we are. That's very important. Like when we made the decision to not proceed with a preliminary economic assessment, which is plus or minus 50% accuracy at the best.
Yeah.
We decided we had enough information to march towards a pre-feasibility study. And with the amount of information we have on our heap leach pads, we're going to be able to do a plan of operation to bring this project back into production, at least on the heaps to start, and then moving up the hill at a later date to the fresh mineralization. A lot of those junior resource companies, as I said, are very good, but they're in the earlier exploration stage. Some of them don't have the permitting opportunity that we have, and they're really starting from square one. So good exploration, and if you want to take a bet on an exploration company, some of those are good. You want to take a bet on a company that might be in production within the next couple of years, I think Silver One's the one you want.
Absolutely. I see that there is so much potential there. One quick more question for you, Greg. If we look at the next, we're going to say 6 to 12 months, what should investors be holding management accountable for in that time?
Well, first of all, getting out drill results. We've got a 25,000 meter drill program, updating quality of resources to measured and indicated based on the 43101 Canadian standards, getting out the pre-feasibility study by the end of the year. That's a big one for us, and that will be our first true economic study that will allow us to move forward to getting a plan of operation and getting those permits updated.
Amazing. Well, we're going to sit here 1 year later and we're going to talk about a headline, and that headline would be, finish the sentence, go. What would be the headline?
We're getting our permits and we're marching towards production.
There we go. Well, Greg, this has been an insightful conversation. Thank you again for sitting with us, and I look forward to sitting with you again.
Thank you, Lyndsay.
Again, that was Greg Crowe, President and CEO of Silver One Resources, trading on the venture under the symbol SVE and on the OTCQB under SLVRF. Now, in a sector that's filled with stories about what could happen someday, investors are increasingly looking for companies that can demonstrate a path to value creation now. And Silver One's challenge is simple. Prove that a past producer can become a future opportunity. And we are thrilled to follow this story along. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk, and this has been the Market Frontlines. Don't forget to subscribe to stay in the know of this story and so many more. We'll see you soon.